Good morning. Well, for anyone who doesn't think space is important, what a great venue. I love coming here, the light, the sense. I have this theory, we're obviously creatures of a million years of evolution. We're highly attuned to our space. We're just mostly not aware of it. And no more is that true than in the workplace. So if we were to ask people what is their ideal workplace, you get something like this. It's a pleasant garden, it's solitary, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's private. But the reality of the workplace is more like this. This is a real picture in Australia. This is actually the MLC building in North Sydney in the 50s. So maybe your parents or grandparents had something to do there. You can see the beginnings of technology, but as the French philosophers say, hell is other people. When you go to work, you actually work with other people. And there's been a fundamental shift, I think, in workplace design away from trying to make it the perfect place for the individual and to actually start to think about teams. And that has been accelerated with the challenges of the information age. Everything's being Uberized, and this is just an example of the financial services industry. Our 4 banks look really safe and solid. The reality is they're running pretty scared about all the changes that are going to be attacking them over the next few years. And there's a few of them down on the screen up there that you can see. This is, I think, though, probably one of the most important numbers in humanity. Does anybody know what it is? Does it ring any bells? It's an anthropologist called Dunbar who came up with this number measuring the size of primates' brains, and that's the human brain number, and it's basically the number of people that we have as friends. There's actually a series of numbers, which is 5 or so, which is your close supports. That's your family, your bestie, your best friend. You typically have around 50 or so close friends. 148.4 is the average for your casual friends. Corresponds pretty much to Facebook, social media, that you can keep active. 500 or so acquaintances, and about 1,500 or so people that you can put a name to the face. Now, some of those crazy cats on LinkedIn that have millions of friends and all that are probably enormous brains or something, but that's the average across the study groups. That becomes really important when you start to focus on teams, and you can go back in time, the Romans, the Roman legions, the way we used to break up departments in large organizations. It's pretty consistent. But this fellow came across something that's even more important in terms of how we structure organizations. Elton Mayo, Harvard Business School, the picture on the right there is the Bell Telephone Labs, the production facility in Hawthorne. There's this famous experiment called the Hawthorne effect, came out of that. This is the guy that did it. What he found out was that it was the social networks of those manufacturing workers that was the most important determinant for productivity increase. Didn't matter what crazy idea management came up with. If these workers got on well with each other, as you see, played games together, laughed, joked, the same way we're talking about in startups, that cultural bond, that is the most important determinant. This was in the 30s. It's still probably the most important bit of research done in social science. It's still highly revered. And by the way, Elton Mayo was born and brought up in Adelaide, Australia. So he's a very famous Australian. We just don't know him. So that's leading then to this sort of thinking about what are the new office buildings. This is one of the most recent in Melbourne. We have some world-class workplaces in Australia. And this is one of the first of the projects where it's been designed around teams. So if you strip away what a large bank is, it's actually a series of teams coming together for various purposes at various points of time in the day. So when you slice that building, what you can see is a bit like an ant farm, I guess, but in a massive scale, the ability for people to move around and collaborate and to form as teams minute by minute, not just hour by hour or year by year. I'll leave you with this word, which is team, and that's fundamental to Atlassian and the way they work. So I'll hand over to Courtney to talk about the importance of team at Atlassian.
Okay. I have to say, first off, it's great to be here in Melbourne. I live in Sydney working for Atlassian, and I always fall in love with Melbourne every time I come here. I've worked for Atlassian for the last 5.5 years. Just so you get some perspective on our growth, we have been a fast-growing company. When I started, there were 165 people in Sydney, and currently there are 881 in Sydney. So that's in 5.5 years. That's about 40% growth average each year. The reason that was high on my list of things to point out is I started off as the office manager for Atlassian, and so we always had more people coming in. Where do we put the people? Growth is good, except when you're the office manager. We've got 6 offices worldwide. The headquarters is in Sydney, where don't be fooled by my American accent. We are an Australian business. We've got mostly development in Sydney, but a fair few other departments of the business. San Francisco houses marketing as well as development and a few other departments. Austin, Texas just opened about 2 years ago, and again is a mix, but a lot of development there. We've got an office in Amsterdam, Japan, and in Manila. We've also, I was laughing because I submitted the slides a few weeks back, and we were at 2014 people, and we've already grown to 2020 by now. So here we've got our mission statement. Forgive me being nervous, it's my first time at POSFest. But the idea that you see is the idea of team, and that's the focus of our business, is trying to unleash the great potential in all teams. Can you flip for me? We don't think that great human achievement has come out of the solo great thinker, as we all, especially Americans, like to believe, but things like flight and lunar landing and hopefully the eventual cure for cancer will come out of teamwork. These are our founders, Mike Cannon-Brookes and Scott Farquhar. They met while they were at uni at the University of New South Wales, and toward the end of their university career, they both did about a 6-month stint at a large corporation as interns, and the big dynamic decision that came out of that was they did not want to get real jobs, and therefore Atlassian was formed. They had one product called Jira that started the company, and from there, using a $10,000 credit card bit of debt, they started Atlassian in 2002. You'll see here a couple of different, mostly American firms on this slide, but Australia isn't our base for product sales. It's mostly in America and Europe. But the idea behind this slide is that teams are driving what's happening in business to move business forward. It's software teams that have created more efficient ways for package service like UPS to make deliveries rather than adding more trucks onto the road. They've got big data to use and can create software to track the most efficient ways and routes for packages to get delivered. Domino's Pizza, similar with the transportation, but they're also making it easier to order a pizza across multiple platforms. Again, this shows you a bit about what teams are facing as far as issues, and the thing that we do as a company at Atlassian is try to help resolve these issues for, we started out mostly for software teams, and where James's team and my team at Atlassian kind of collaborate is trying to address these issues, but with the physical space. These are just a few of our products. I'm not sure if people have heard of Atlassian, but you may have heard of some of our products, especially if you've got any software developer friends. They tend to know Jira and Confluence the most. And then we've got 50,000 customers that are across all industries and across the globe. Let's just go forward. Sorry, we're trying to make up time for folks. So you'll see the values here, and to be honest with you, this is what drew me to working for Atlassian. I had worked for the state government in Texas for 10 years before I joined the software world, and always had to be really cautious and careful and just conservative about everything that I said or did ever in my career in politics. And then I see this company that's got a no bullshit and a don't fuck the customer value, and I'm thinking, this is the place for me. And I find that most people are attracted to the company by these values. When we talk to people about why did they join, this is what they refer back to. And it's kind of, like I used to think values were a bit cheesy. I would see them painted on the walls in the reception of just about every corporate office I went to. And they felt like they were a bit remote from where the employees were and maybe a bit forgotten. But at Atlassian, you'll see people make reference to these values in their daily lives on our intranet. It's just something you can refer to. Everyone knows what you're talking about, and it really is nice to see these great values actually come through everything we do. It also is the basis for the way we physically design our buildings. So we've got a couple pictures of pretty things. I kind of laughed at James because we pulled slides out to go a little faster, and all the nice architectural slides are still in. I always like to take pictures of spaces with people in them and how they're actually getting used. But this is a very, from the outside or exterior, if you ask me, I'm no architecture critic, but it's a very bland, boring building in the downtown CBD area of Austin, Texas. We've got a gentleman who is from Texas. This is his dream building, this office tower. The lobby, when you walk in, is just one of those dead spaces that it looks like there's nothing going on in there, and it makes me crazy every time I'm there. But so we really tried to activate our space. This is a staircase that cuts through 3 floors. It also serves as a stage. There's quite a large expanse of room behind this, and folks can get up and give a presentation much like this to the whole office using this staircase. Oh yeah, we've got bands that come in on Friday nights and that sort of thing, so I forget. Top of the staircase, you can kind of see in the bottom of that photo, there's a lot of folks sitting there actually receiving a presentation using that bottom section of the staircase as a stage. So that's sort of like the type of thinking, because most of the spaces we need to do multiple duties because we're usually pretty limited, but we do have a lot that goes on, so we just have to make the most of our spaces. This is that same area. Everybody sits in this section. You can work here throughout the day. There's music playing in this part of the building. Not necessarily the best setting for software developers, so we have something similar that's quieter with the same type of variety of seating. But this space also doubles as our all-staff space. We just turn everything facing the stage. That's the lobby entrance to the office, just another floor. Those are all t-shirts. Software companies are famous for their love of t-shirts, and that's a wall of ours. We got lucky with this building. We actually have some outdoor space, and it's limited in the downtown area of Austin. You can see kind of the outside of the building. It's a bit dull. We tend to go toward something more like this, which is our San Francisco office. This is a warehouse that we renovated, and we've got about 300 people in San Francisco right now using this office. So that's about it for our formal stuff, but we will take any questions and talk about the work that we've done together.